solutions for your soul. Total grace, healing for your mind, body, and soul.
Good evening, good evening. How is everyone doing on this Monday evening?
Are you talking loud enough?
Yes.
Okay, I want to make sure people can hear us.
How y'all doing this evening?
Welcome to Monday Marriage Conversations with Thaddeus and Amanda.
As you can see, we're not in our normal setting, our normal studio at our home. We are in Orlando, Florida.
Sunny
Orlando for vacation. We're on the back patio, and the sun is beaming down on us. I'll give you a quick view on the backside of the golf course, but we're excited. We want to come back on tonight, and we want to share with you what we had in our heart from last week. We want to finish our thought about what is your communication style. What is your communication style? We talked about last week. We talked about the importance of communication. We talked about the importance not only of just communicating and talking, but of how important it is to listen. And we used for our base scripture on last week, we used James 1:19. For everyone should be slow to speak, swift to hear, and slow to wrath. And we use this should be talk less, listen more, and keep your emotions in check. So we'll talk about tonight. We're going to talk about different types of communication styles tonight, and you can kind of look at and kind of see where you fit in and see what your communication style is.
Yeah, we also use Proverbs 15, verses 1 through 2 from the Passion Translations, which says, respond gently when you are confronted, and you'll diffuse the rage of another. Responding with sharp, cutting words will only make it worse. Don't you know that being angry can ruin the testimony of even the wisest of men?
Yeah.
But the Message Bible reads this way for Proverbs 15, 1 and 2. A gentle response diffuses anger, but a sharp tongue kindles a temper fire, right? Knowledge flows like spring water from the wise. Fools are leaky faucets dripping nonsense.
Wow. So you can either be a spring of water, or you can be a leaky faucet.
Spring of wisdom.
Spring of wisdom, or you can be a leaky faucet spouting nonsense. I think I choose to be the spring of wisdom.
Yeah, and what we came across, the kind of the foundation for this teaching, not just those two scriptures, but it's an article from the Mayo Clinic on communication styles, communication types, and whether or not a person is assertive, passive aggressive, make sure I say that right, or they are strictly aggressive, right? And we talked a little bit last week about a person being assertive and using active listening in their communication and in their conversations. That's something that we had to learn how to do individually and then together collectively as a couple. We both had to learn how to be assertive, but we also had to learn how to listen. Because a lot of times we would talk and we would talk. And as the other person was talking,
we were trying to figure out what we were going to say. How we were going to respond.
We were thinking more about how we were going to respond
instead of actually listening.
And instead of actively listening. And then sometimes we would just key in on one point or one phrase or one word that we each would say, and then that's what we would base our response on. Because that one little word that triggered something on the inside of us, and that caused us to have an emotional response in our conversation instead of a response that's full of wisdom, as it says in the scripture. Right?
All right.
And we also said that if you are trying to use active listening and you're trying to be assertive, those can be challenging in your relationship, especially if it's not something that you are used to doing.
Right? Exactly.
So it's going to take some time. It's not where it's going to change overnight. But if you put into practice the the being assertive
Yes.
and actively listening, over time, it will become a normal part of your conversation.
Yeah. It takes talked last week. It talks about it takes intentionality.
Yeah.
And like I said, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time as you be intentional about it. You'll learn to be more aggressive in your conversation, and knowing that you can express what's on your heart and say how you feel, because they are your feelings. You can express your feelings.
Is that aggressive or being assertive?
That's being assertive.
Okay.
I said assertive.
Okay, I thought you said
No.
aggressive. Because a
That's
person
right.
that's aggressive can come across as being a bully.
Yeah, that's
Right?
true. That's
Right? They can come across being a bully because they're intimidating, or they're what's the word? Very forceful in their communication. An assertive person doesn't have to be intimidating or forceful, but they can be not intimidating. They can be assertive by respecting themselves and others.
Yeah.
Right. And that's also something we shared last week. An assertive person respects themselves enough to where they respect their own thoughts and feelings, and they're able to convey them to others because they respect themselves enough.
Yeah.
Right. And active listening is where we, as a individual, we're listening to understand what the other person is saying, or to be empathetic with them, to kind of put ourselves in their shoes a little bit, especially when it comes to expressing their thoughts and feelings, right?
Yeah.
So, and an active listener is going to take the time to listen and restate, I think, the key points or the final points of what the other person has said.
All right, let's talk about some styles.
Mm-hmm.
Here, we're going to talk about a few of the Well, first we talk about some ways that help you be assertive. Did we talk about that?
Yes. Well, we didn't really cover it a whole lot.
Yeah, just real quick. Ways to help you be assertive. We talked about access your style.
You got to understand what your style is.
Yeah, we got to understand what your style is.
Okay.
All right. All right.
Get it away.
Okay. What was that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we talked about passive or non-assertive. You may seem to be shy or overly and easygoing. You may routinely say things such as, I'll just go with whatever the group decides, or I'll just go with the flow. You tend to avoid conflict.
That's
passive. Passive people tend to avoid conflict. Why is that a problem? Because the message you're sending is that your thoughts and feelings aren't as important as those of other people. In essence, when you too passive, you allow others to ignore your wants and your needs. That's very important, especially in marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in marriage, in a relationship, but especially in marriage, when you're too passive. And we've seen it when one individual is very assertive and one person is very passive. Then the person that's passive normally feel like they're being what's the word I want to use? Dominated, or being like somebody's trying to run their life, because it's because they're not being assertive in relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It is not. When I say assertive, I use like assertive. It's not being aggressive.
Right.
It's just being able to express your feelings, being able to say how you feel. So we definitely want, as like Amanda said earlier, if you are a passive person, you definitely want to learn it, and it's not going to happen overnight, but you can learn to be assertive.
Yeah, you can learn to be assertive.
Yes. All right. I think that was on that one.
Well, you got to talk about aggressive behavior. Person that's aggressive.
Yeah.
Because I mentioned it earlier that an aggressive person can come across as being a bully. And we know what a bully looks like. We know what a bully sounds like, right?
Mm. So what type of style would you say? What type of style you would say I have?
I think at times we were both passive aggressive.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we were both passive aggressive in our conversation until we learned how to be assertive
Mm-hmm.
and communicate our thoughts and feelings to each other
Mm-hmm.
without disrespecting each other.
Yes. So when you so for those that don't know, when a person is passive aggressive, they are passive in certain things, but then aggressive at certain times.
Well, it's basically where you can ask me to do something and I really don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But to avoid the conflict. To avoid causing problems, I'll say yes.
So that's like
and then when I do it, I can do it with grumbling, murmuring, and complaining, not necessarily to you, but to myself and within myself. Or I could still say it at times where it's loud enough and you can hear it. You know.
But is that the same as like going along to get along?
No, not necessarily going along to get along. But it can be very close to it. It can be akin to it, but it's not exactly the same.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. So you like I said earlier, you want to be assertive, assertiveness, and that's the main thing. When we deal with couples, we want to get them to have self-confidence and be assertive.
Yes.
When they're self-confident, when they're confident enough in themselves, they can be assertive and ask for what they want in a relationship and express their feelings in a relationship and ask for what they want.
Yeah.
So we want to be assertive, not passive aggressive, but assertive.
Yes.
In your relationship.
Yeah. So some of the ways that you can be assertive, and we kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, is assess your style. It's understanding the type of or the style of communication that you have, right? You know whether or not you are assertive because within yourself, if you feel as though you can express your thoughts and feelings and communicate what it is that you want in the relationship, then you are an assertive person. However, a person that is not assertive, they're not going to feel as though they can express their thoughts and feelings, as you said, and they can begin to feel dominated or within their relationship, right?
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. Assess your style. Second would be
use I statements. That's very important. You use I statements instead of you always do this. Say, okay, when you do this, say, this is how I feel when this happened. Like you can say, well, you're always late. Instead of saying, well, you're always late, say, well, this is how I feel when you don't show up on time. This is how I feel. So use I statements. So you explain to the person, this is how I feel. I'm not passing blame. I'm not saying, I'm not. It takes tension out of
the relationship.
It takes some tension out of the relationship and out of the conversation. It takes the tension out. You said, I'm not blaming you. You said, this is how it makes me feel. And if I'm concerned and I value your feelings, I'm concerned about how I make you feel. I'm probably not doing it intentionally. Then I will probably want to listen and correct that behavior.
Yes. Yeah.
If I'm concerned about the relationship and I want the relationship to last and work out, I'm going to correct that behavior because I don't want to make you feel that way.
Good. That's good. So assess your style, use I statements, and then next would be practice saying no.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with saying no. Not at all. You don't have to be a yes person.
Yes.
And you don't have to go along to get along. You can say no because no actually helps you set boundaries. Okay? You can actually say no and set boundaries for yourself and your relationship.
I saw a quote said one of the best, what is it? I think it's mental health or self-help words is no.
Self-care.
Self-care words is no.
Yeah.
Because you can't, because sometimes we just say yes to everything and everybody. We can't.
That's right.
So sometimes it's best to sometimes say no. Know your limitations.
That's good.
So in a relationship, it's good to say, just say no. Practice saying no.
Yep.
If you have, I can't do it right now. I can't do it now, but I can do it later. Or it's okay if I do it tomorrow morning, or or if I do it later on this evening. So it's okay to say
no.
And the next one is rehearse what you want to say. Rehearse what you want to say. Like if you want to take a time out, or before you have the conversation, you know you're going to have a conversation. Rehearse what you want to say. If it's challenging to say what you want or think, practice general scenarios you encounter to say what you want to say uh, out loud. It may help to write it down. That helps me when I'm going to have a conversation, or even sometimes I'm presenting something. It's good for me to write it down and say it, because then it's for me, it's easy for me to remember it.
Okay.
If I write it down, say it out loud, then it's easy for me to remember what I'm going to say.
That's good. Some people may need that because you can use that as a prompter.
Yeah.
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 Because you may start out saying what it is that you wanted to say, but then you could lose your train of thought because you can get interrupted from someone.
Yeah.
Right. But then that'll also help you. It's kind of like a cue card. It'll help keep you on track, and it'll bring you back into focus too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So one of the other areas that you can do, I won't say do this, but learn to be assertive, is also focus on your body language.
Yeah.
One of the things that when we were being passively aggressive with one another, I would walk away.
Yeah.
Right. And you would raise your voice.
Yeah.
And then at times, both of us would shut down. And that's body language.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we can focus on correcting our body language to make sure that we are present in the conversation.
Facial expressions.
Yeah, facial expressions are big too, because you can tell when a person is not
Yeah.
actively listening to you because their eyes are not focused on you, their body's not toward you.
You used to have these facial expressions, and I didn't. You did.
I would say demonstrate, but you can't demonstrate
You just have facial expressions like I didn't. Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, and it wasn't because I look at you like, what are you saying?
Yeah.
That don't make sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And the next one is only body language, but keep emotions in check.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about it earlier in Jane. Talk less, listen more, keep your emotions in check. Conflicts are hard for most people anyway, so maybe you get angry or frustrated, or maybe you feel like crying, although these feelings are typical and they can get in the way of resolving conflict. If you feel you get too emotional in a situation, wait a bit if possible, then work on remaining calm, breathe slowly, keep your voice even and firm, but keep your emotions in check, because we know in having discussions sometimes, or arguments, emotions can get high, emotions can run high.
Absolutely.
And that's another thing. You got to be intentional about keeping your emotions in check.
Yeah.
Controlling. I always go back to the scripture, the man that can control his own spirit. When you can't control your own spirit, you're like a city with broken down walls.
Yeah.
If you can't control your own spirit, you have to be able to control. I know some people used to say, "Oh, I can't. I just can't help it." No, yes, you can. You can.
Yes,
when you have self-control, there is self-control. You can help it. You can help it.
You can help it. And then finally, in a very similar to writing it down or rehearsing what you're going to say, start small. It's not where you have to resolve the entire conflict at that time, because there may be small steps that you can take to lead you to completely resolving the conflict. And one of the things we tell couples is that you must take ownership of your part of the conflict. All right, your part of the conversation, your part of the miscommunication that's taking place. So if you're miscommunicating, then that can come from one, either you're not assertive or you're not assertive enough in the relationship, right? And then that can cause miscommunication. That can also cause frustration, as we've mentioned before. So start small, be intentional, and resolve smaller pieces of what needs to be resolved, one day at a time.
Yep.
Okay.
And finally, before we get ready to end this segment, learning to be assertive takes time and practice. If you spent years silencing yourself or being passive aggressive, like being more assertive probably won't happen. It won't happen overnight.
Mhm.
Or if anger leads you to be aggressive, you may need to learn some anger management techniques.
Yeah.
If
Despite
despite your best efforts, if you're not making progress towards becoming more assertive, consider formal assertiveness training. And if certain issues such as anger, stress, anxiety, or fear are going in or getting in your way, consider talking with a mental health professional. The payoff will be worth it. By becoming more assertive, you can begin to express your true feelings and needs more easily. You may even find that you get more of what you want as a result.
Yeah.
So remember, being assertive is the ability to express your feelings and to ask of what you want in a relationship.
Yeah.
It's not a like a hard thing, but it seems like simple, but it's hard for some people.
It's a challenge.
It's a challenge for some to express your feelings and to ask for what you want, especially if you're not used to doing it. If you like a kind of a maybe a passive, or maybe you're kind of like a passive.
Yeah, and
person.
just
Or you've
to
been
recap,
silenced.
yeah, you've been silenced,
or you don't, or could be this, or you don't know the power of your voice.
Yeah, you don't know the power of your voice. You've been
you haven't found your
silenced.
voice.
It wasn't modeled before you.
Yeah.
We've had negative and positive things that were modeled before us, and we bring those into our relationships.
Yeah.
And there are things we have to learn and unlearn or relearn in order for us to have healthy communication within our relationships.
Yes.
Okay.
So, go ahead.
No, again, the foundation for our conversation stems from an article we came across and discussed amongst ourselves from the Mayo Clinic on assertiveness and communication styles.
Yeah.
And we just wanted to share it with you to let you know that there is help available for you if you need to work on your communication style. Yes.
If you like to talk to someone, you can talk to us. We can do a session with the couple, or a couple session or individual session. You can reach us at our website at totalgracesolutions.com, and you can set up a time and we can talk to you. We can meet with you and do a consult with you, initial consult with you, and then we can go from there. So that's available to you as well. Hey, Janae Wilson, thanks for listening to us tonight.
Thank you for joining our conversation.
That's all we have for tonight. Thank you for joining us. We wanted to take a time, even while we're here in sunny Florida, take time to come back and share with you what was on our heart tonight concerning communication. And we want to give you a quick, I don't know if you see view
sunset
of the sunset in the background. I don't know if you can see that. The sun is setting in the background. But God bless you. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for joining us on tonight on Monday's Marriage Conversation, and we'll see you next time. You have anything you want to say?
No, that'll be it.
God bless you. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Monday Marriage Conversations. God bless you. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.
Total grace, solutions for your soul.